Take a look at what's a big story in the world of politics, of course, as we all get ready for what is going to be a very hotly contested, I'm sure, ANC elective conference coming up in December. And it's been one of the most spoken about resolutions as far as the ruling party is concerned, the step-aside policy up for debate again. It does follow, as we have reported, the withdrawal of murder charges against ANC and Mpumalanga Treasurer Mandla Msibi, and down in the Western Cape, that High Court dismissing the NPA's appeal of the acquittal of MP Bongani Bongo. That was on bribery charges, of course. So let's get a state of what the step-aside resolution looks like at the moment, heading into what is going to be, I'm sure, a very, very interesting elective conference. Pule Mabe, ANC spokesperson, joining us. Pule, good to have you on the show. So now off the back of these various positions being put back into play, the provincial treasurer in Mpumalanga, Bongani Bongo, of course, that case struck off the roll. Yet we're still here talking about the step-aside resolution. Why is it still such a hotly contested issue with the ANC? It seems to work when people have criminal charges withdrawn, they come back into play. Why is there so much discontent within the ANC?
Well, morning to your viewers. I do not think that there is a discontent within the ANC. What would have happened is that, Karen, in the 2017 conference, flowing from our National General Council, where we spoke about the restoration of the credibility and integrity of the ANC, conference resolved on the step-aside rule, and that the incoming National Executive Committee must develop guidelines. So it has been a work in progress.
Almost refining guidelines.
Yes, so it is work in progress. So you began implementing those post the 2017 National Conference. So there are certain lessons learned, sufficient to be able to assist the ANC to then say, do we need to refine the step-aside guidelines in the current form to make sure that in their implementation and execution, we do so consistently. Something that some of our structures raised at the National Policy Conference. They had said, we do not have issues with the step-aside guidelines. But what we are saying is that their application must be consistent so that they are never seen or perceived to be implemented or executed to bottle those who might be having dissenting views outside the structures of the organization. Is that
something the national leadership agreed with, that it has been applied consistently?
Yes, actually, when the president made the closing address, he did say this is one issue that is on the radar of the National Executive Committee. We will be able to go back to the 55th National Conference, which a much more refined proposal to allow conference to deliberate, consider, and be able to guide what the incoming leadership is expected to do.
Limpopo and KZN still very much against the step-aside. They were vocal about this. We know during the KZN elective conference it was a big talking point down there as well. They did not want to accept it. What's the state with the KZN and Limpopo committees? Because they want to know what it is before they get to December. They want that.
They were given a space. Yeah. They've used the platform of the 6th National Policy Conference to be able to deposit their own views. It is this which I'm saying will form part of that refinement as we consolidate how the step-aside guidelines must look like. The restoration of the credibility and integrity of the ANC is of utmost importance. For the ANC to be accepted by the rest of society, it has got to show, one, that it has got credible men and women who are discharging the responsibility of leadership. The step-aside guidelines were never meant to criminalize cadres of the African National Congress. It says, if Gareth is criminally charged, indicted to appear in a court of law for serious crimes, he will be asked to step aside in the period wherein he's still appearing before the court. But if you are acquitted and are not found guilty, or the case is thrown out of court, it then follows that you come back to resume your full responsibilities.
But also internal ANC policies as well, which is, I think, where some of the contestation comes in. You're quite right about the courts, but that's clear.
Yes.
But there's also ANC internal policies. If you're in violation of that, you could be asked to step aside. And that's where it gets grey, doesn't it? Who is implementing
when it deals with the ANC, for instance, we have got the Rule 25.72 of the ANC Constitution that effectively empowers us, the National Executive Committee at our level, to be able to impose a temporary suspension on a member that could be in violation of the Constitution of the African National Congress, or could have been asked to appear before a court of law, but such a member did not concede or comply with the step-aside guidelines. When such a member doesn't do that, what we then do is that we activate Rule 25.70 of the ANC Constitution, which effectively enjoins and empowers the leadership of the ANC to be able to implement such.
And I suppose that's where the contestation is coming in, because it's being left to the leadership of the ANC. And within that leadership, there is some critics are suggesting that those in power are selectively targeting ANC members they don't agree with. I mean, I suppose that's where the danger is, isn't it?
No, not necessarily, not necessarily. Actually, Rule 25 of the African National Congress deals with discipline overall. It sets out the different disciplinary structures. Say you are in a region, there will be a regional disciplinary committee which is empowered to actually discharge such responsibilities as it deals with matters of discipline in the organization. At a provincial level, you'll have a PDC, which does execute that work at a provincial level. At a national level, you'll have the NDC. But there is also another body that allows members to be able to raise their own appeal. At the national level, we've got the NDCA, which is the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals, which accord members that opportunity to be able to appeal. It must never come across that the constitution of the ANC or its own mechanisms of discipline could be used to bottle members out. That was never the intention.
Are you worried about December? Very briefly, as I say goodbye, are you worried that the step-aside could hold up proceedings in December?
Well, why should I be worried? The ANC is a democratic organization. Actually, it is the platform of conference that members of the ANC must use to express themselves, to be able to come up with policies that they believe will best shape their own organization. Because the renewal of the African National Congress is going to happen at the backdrop of the views expressed by members of the African National Congress overall. So there is no leader of the ANC who should be worried about the 55th National Conference. Actually, that festival of ideas is the rightful platform where we must express ourselves. Be able to then say, what kind of an ANC going into the next 5 years, going into the 2024 elections, do we want to assemble, which will be accepted by the rest of South Africa's people and allow the ANC to be returned to power in 2024.
Festival of Ideas in December. Pule, thank you for coming in to speak to us this morning. ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe joining us. Step-aside resolution sounds like there, as far as leadership is concerned, no concerns to be worried about. We wait to see, of course, how it plays out later this year. Let's take